time to do another video. As you saw by the title, just move the camera a little. There we go. Don't listen to what they say. Follow your own way. It's words I got somewhere 30 odd years ago or something from, I don't know if you remember the first Enigma album. I think it comes from there, or maybe the second Enigma album. Anyway, I want to read to you something that I wrote regarding this. It's not exactly regarding this, but it helps to understand what I'm talking about. Is, follow your own path. That's what this is really saying. It's not that easy. You are going to be going against the grain of all of society, tradition, your parents. You're going to go against what is expected of you. You're going to go against your friends, what they have been programmed to expect, of what we're supposed to do in our life and so on. But I'll read you something that how it happens to me in a way. When I went and I've been following my own way really my whole life. Like I said in my book, Where We Dreamed a Single Dream, you have to fight for it. No one is going to give you that opportunity. You have to fight for it. Anyway, I'll read you what I wrote, how it really happens to me, how I get my instructions, if you like. Once, I was walking my dogs and a bird settled in front of me, and I could swear it said, "It's going to rain." I looked to the sky, and there were a few clouds, but nothing that could possibly be called rain. So I dismissed the bird and its advice as nothing more than my own overtaxed imagination, and didn't walk more than a few steps before it started to drizzle. But I still thought it was impossible for it to really rain, and instead of looking for shelter, I kept going. I think you know where this is going, right? Perhaps 2 minutes later, the rain came down, and I mean not showers, but pouring rain, and before my dogs and I found suitable shelter, we were thoroughly drenched, right? Now, had I listened to the bird's message and not allowed the masculine rational head to sabotage the territory of my feminine intuition, the heart, which is to live like the legends of the forest of old, the shamans and mystics, in that shamanic way of connection to the soul, to the unconscious, that is all of the creation, participation with its consciousness in nature and the immediate environment, so that wherever you are, you remain always open to its living spirit communicating to you in synchronicity, in intuitive revelation, we could have easily found a shelter and avoided that embarrassing situation. For as I was rushing home cold, wet and miserable, while my dogs were glaring at me with deathly thunderbolts, I swear I heard the same bird laughing from above branches. I told you so. I told you so. I mean, this is a real event. It happened to me. I still remember the day we were walking just not far from here on a path, on a walking path next to a creek, next to this would have been winter, I think, or maybe early spring. I keep touching the screen because this phone is so old that it wants to close apps, but it can't, and so on. Anyway. So this is how I receive my message. Not all the time. I'm not saying that I'm listening to birds talking to me all the time, but it was clear in my mind. It was clear that this is what's going to happen. I didn't listen to my intuition. I mean, I can give you so many examples where I failed to listen to my intuition and failed in getting in doing what I was meant to be doing. But overall, I could say, in my own personal experience, having listened to the dreams. You know, I got a lot of information through my dreams, as you probably know by now, and intuition in art, in poetry. I managed to go and do what I needed to fulfill my life's destiny. This is where I'm going with this. And to fulfill your life's destiny is really the one thing that you are responsible for in your own life. There are many examples of people in history and so on that have gone their own way, followed their own path. I mean, Joseph Campbell talks about it all the time. This is what he means when he says, follow your own bliss. Yeah, you follow your own way, you follow your own directions. It's not easy. Like I said before, it's not easy. People are going to try to bring you down because you're going your own way. You're going against what they expect of you to do. So, you know, when you're younger, and especially when you're younger, you know, you're expected to finish your school, you know, your high school, and then you go into university, get qualified for some job, get a job, start a family, get into debt, and off you go for the rest of your life. That's the normal way of doing. But there are few, very, very few, who actually have, there's something inside of them that keeps reminding them that their way of life, their destiny is a little different. One great example of this, perhaps Jesus. You know, we know him as Jesus Christ. Yeah? And he, regardless of the pressures of the outside, of the community, of the tradition, of the society, he followed his own way. He carried his own cross, in other words. He did what he was inside of him, what the voice inside of him was saying, you need to do. And he did it. And hence we've got this wonderful story, wonderful mythology of a human being reaching for that ability to know who he really was. You know, going into the desert and going past John the Baptist, where he didn't find what he was looking for, and going into the desert and fighting with his survival instincts, the devil, if you like. And then having an experience, we don't know what the experience was, but after that, when he came back, he started his career, he started teaching. Buddha is another example. He also went against what was required of him. He followed his own way. He didn't listen to what they say. He followed his own way. And how difficult was that? He was a prince. He was expected to be, you know, to run the kingdom, a future king. He already had a wife, he had a child, and he left because there was something stronger in him that was asking him to do what he needed to do to fulfill his life destiny. Yeah? And then he went into the forest, similar to Christ. Christ went into the desert. Buddha went to the forest, was looking for what was driving him to fulfill his life's destiny. He was looking for this amongst people, amongst gurus, amongst groves with sages and so on. He didn't find it. He nearly starved himself to death, right? And then he suddenly just got it. You know, that famous line of not too, not too tight and not too weak, not too much slack. He remembered something that his father told him, that, you know, if you want to succeed in life, you have to string the instruments not too tight, not too slack, otherwise it's not going to have the right tune. And in that moment of intuitive clarity, he got it. He got it that he has to just let go and go in the middle way. The middle way, follow the middle way. And he saw a girl from the village brought him some rice. He finally had something to eat. He put the bowl into the stream next to him, and he said, wherever the bowl goes, I will follow. And the bowl went up the stream. Some of the stories go like that. And he followed the stream. He followed what was coming into him intuitively. You see? There are many examples like this. Jung had to do it. How many years did he have to go against the mainstream? He left Freud. Freud was expecting Jung to be his continue Freud's work of the personal unconscious. But Jung found that there's something else, there's something deeper within himself and within his clients, the people that he was trying to help, healing as a doctor. He saw that there's this collective unconscious and inside of it. He says, this is where I have to go. I have to go in that direction. I can't just go and follow Freud's idea. There's something bigger, deeper that is calling to me. He was calling to him in his writing, in his dreams. He was calling to him in his art, if you remember. You know, the stone that arrived, the synchronicity attached to the stone that had just arrived. He ordered another stone, but a different stone arrived. But the moment he looked at it, he said, "That's my stone." It was a cube. I don't know what he orders. I can't remember. I think it was building for the building of his a tower at the lake. He ordered something else. It was for the masons, and something else arrived. But he said, "No, that's it. That's my stone." And we got this famous stone in the center. Is the Telesphorus, the image of the self with he's wearing a hood over his head. That is to say, you can't see him. He's a spirit. He's not something that you're gonna see outside of yourself, but within yourself. And he carries a pail, a little what we call it, a pail. It's a little container, and that's the container of energy. There's your energy in there. There's the spirit in there. He is the spirit. He is the energy. That's what that means. And that's, by the way, when we see so many in mythology, you see these gods, winged gods, carry a pail and so on. That's what that means. That energy. That's what gives you wings. That's what gives you the intuition. That's what we're talking about. The recovery of the center is the recovery of your intuition. And intuition is perception through the unconscious, through the soul. You live in both realities at once, and that's following your own way. I remember once, I write about it in the book. I was in Norway. I was looking for what my life was meant to be. And I traveled all the way to Scandinavia. I had a dream that that's where I'm going to go. And I traveled, I was looking for my own destiny in life, if you like. And I'm walking through this little town called Narvik, all the way up north, So what am I looking for? All the way up north. I'm looking for the connection to the soul, to the spirit, intuitively. And there I got really fascinated with a man, a poet, an artist from Holland. We were staying in the same hostel. He looked like James Morrison, long hair, leather pants, short winter jacket, he had a pack of tarot cards in his pocket always. He was a poet, and I was really fascinated by him. And I was listening to everything he said. I was hanging on every word because it's something of me was attracted to him, the way he was, free and a poet and intuitive. I didn't know any of this, of course, but I was fascinated by that. I was hanging to every word he was saying. And then suddenly I'm walking through town and I'm keep hearing the same song by TLC, Stop Chasing this, and stick to the waters and the waterfalls that you used to. Stop chasing others, what they say. Listen to what your own waters and lakes are already saying. Your own water of life, your intuition is saying. In other words, stop being so fascinated by what is said to you from somebody else. You have your own inner resources already. This is what you're looking for. This phone is, I'm gonna have to start using another phone. Anyway, that's one of the story. And when I did stop listening, the guy, I think it was the next day when I realized what was being said to me in the environment. By the way, if you pay attention to the environment, it will speak to you just like that. You have this like I said, intuition is perception through the unconscious. And unconscious is present not just within you, but all around you, and it speaks to you. That's synchronicity. Yeah, poetry, art, all the same. It's you have this connection, and the world of the spirit. The world is going to talk to you. Anyway, I think it was the next day. That guy, the poet from Holland, this James Morrison lookalike. He was actually a singer as well from a band. He moved out. He moved out, and he said, "I have to go away," because he didn't give me a reason, but said, "I have to go away. I have to be alone." He realized, I think, that I needed my own space, because I needed to listen to my own stuff. And before my own intuition, before he left, he gave me a little tape machine. He says, "I don't know what you have to do with this, but I know I have to give it to you." And the tape machine, the little tape, what do you do? What do you use the little tape machine for? You use it for things that, to talk to record your own the messages or insights. I used to walk around with a notepad and a pencil when something occurred to me, so I wouldn't forget it. That was a little bit later in life. But he gave me that, and he said, "This is, I don't know what you're going to have to do with it, but I know you have to have it." So it's recording your insights, what comes through, all of us, poets and artists, that's what we do. We record things that come through us. We don't own these things. That are not ours. They come through us so that we can communicate that to the community. There have been people like this throughout the day. They always follow their own, against the grain of what is expected of our society. Witches were exactly the same. They had their own connection to nature, to the spirit, to the soul. That's why the church started, they had to rid of them, because they were, they had their own connection to the God, to the divine. They didn't need the church. So what was the use of having a church and its power base and all the bishops that hold power and the priests and so on? If you had someone people in the community, especially women are far more intuitive, far more in tune to nature, yeah, to their own nature, inner nature, which didn't need the church to do what the church was supposedly saying that they were doing on behalf of you, saving your soul, communicating to God on your behalf. You didn't need that if you met a witch, a wise woman. That's what the witches were. There were women that didn't lose connection to the divine, to the soul, to the world of the spirit, to nature. So they were hated for that. There was another reason why they also started to kill women. It happened about the 12th century. We had the poets and the troubadours who started to venerate women, especially in France. And there were knights that were fighting for women. Woman was she was his. She was his image of the soul. She was his projection of the image of his own soul. So he fought for it. A knight or a poet wrote music for it, wrote poetry and verse for her. Excuse me, I still got a bit of a cold. And the woman was venerated, more venerated than the church. So they started to get rid of it. You were not allowed to venerate women. At that time also, women were raised by the church to the image of Mary. And Mary is purely spiritual. Nothing to do with everyday reality here on the ground. She's out there somewhere. So that's what they did to women. And they had to get rid of the women that were, showing the image of the soul that here, right now, for men, for all of us. She was the living image of the divinity, so the church couldn't have that. So they started the burning times, the killing of the witches, right after when they clamped down on poets and troubadours and knights venerating women. So that was, the poets and the troubadours and the knights, they were following their own way. They didn't listen to what others said. They were following. They had this need to do that internally, not from outside, but from within themselves. So they followed their own way. They paid the price, of course, for it. Especially women paid the price. 5 centuries. It was longer than that, really. 517. Yeah, it was longer than 5 centuries, because if it started in 12th century, it didn't really end till about the 19th century. So it's many, many hundreds of years, and many thousands of women died. Not only women, but men who followed their own way as well, were labeled witches or were labeled not desirable in society. So you had Giordano Bruno in 1600, who showed he followed his own way. He followed his own discoveries and his own intuitive discoveries and dreams and visions that showed that the universe is not, the solar system is not structured. He was shown this in the vision, like the church claims it is, that the earth is the center of the universe. He showed that it's different, and for that, of course, they burned him on a stake. So it's not easy to follow your own way. Trust me, you're gonna have to fight for it, but you're gonna have to trust your own intuition, your madness. I call it madness. Someone asked me, why do you call it madness? Because in our society, which values only the head, the rational part, the dry facts and science and everything which is outside of you, you have to kind of sponge that up and remember all these things that you're told from schooling. It starts really with kindergarten. Starts really early. You start to get brainwashed. You have to sponge up all this stuff. You can't have your own discoveries. You can't have trust your own inner resources. You have to just listen to what you're told and then regurgitate. The better you regurgitate, the better student you are, the better you fit into the society. You're not following your own way this way. You're following the instructions of what you're supposed to be following. And then, of course, people forget. Once you get into high school, once you get about 14, 15, 16, all that stuff that when you were a kid, all that spontaneity, playfulness, all that inspiration. Do you remember the hours and hours when you were a kid? You were just there by yourself and rearranging maybe things or building things. I used to build things from Lego blocks. Everything you could imagine. The Lego blocks were actually a present to my sister, but I acquired them. There was only, I think, 120 pieces in there. My art. That's how it happened. Even with cars or things, the toys that I got, I used to pull them apart and just build something new from all the separate parts. Drawing. Do you remember? Especially watercolors. Kids love watercolors or wax. What are they called? Wax colors, wax sticks. I can't remember. Pencils, wax pencils. All kids had wax pencil things. Remember? Or watercolors. We even got this special, really thick paper to absorb the water better because you made a mess. Do you remember that? You did that as you're a kid. You did that. You lived it from within yourself. Things were coming to you spontaneously. We had that before, but of course now it's, you're mad. That's why I call it madness. When you're following your intuition, it's madness. Because now you're going to be labeled mad. Jesus, everything irrational is completely madness. You're going to be labeled with schizophrenia. I have many times. Oh, the voices that you hear perhaps are schizophrenia. Okay, there are people, of course, that have schizophrenia, and I work with some. And I know what it's like. They're walking around, they're talking to themselves, they can be really dangerous, and they hear their voices and so on. But these voices are not really the voices of like what the poets or mystics or saints are hearing, the voice of the inner self, of the soul. They're their own things that they can't digest because they're traumatized for a reason or another. They just repeat these things over and over in their own head. They had nowhere else to go. Anyway. What else would I... Yeah, but that's how it is. In my last video, remember, I thought she was crazy, but she was only highly intuitive. Remember that? That's how it is. You're going to be labeled crazy. But some of you I know are intuitive. And I can see it in some of your posts and things that you say, the comments that you make. you know it. It just happens. Women are especially like that. You know, so what I'm saying to you is that honor this. Don't try to hold it back. Don't try to stifle it. The more you honor it, the more you love it. Well, that's what it means by loving your inner beloved. It doesn't mean that Jesus, you're gonna fall in love with your inner self. It's not easy living from your inner self. You know, but the more you love the fact that you are connected to it, and it speaks to you and it helps you, the more you're gonna have a friend, something you can completely rely on in your life. You can't rely on people all the time. You know, people are going to disappoint you. I've been disappointed so many times. It's not funny. But this, if you listen and if you pay attention, the more you ask, the more you are grateful for what you receive, the more you work for it, not just for yourself. This is something that goes beyond your own life and its survival. Now, then you become, start to fulfill your own life's destiny. The soul wants to be part of our society, out of our culture again, part of our community. And those of us that are creative enough, that trust this inner voice enough, that's what we're called for to do. Like my videos or my posts, the things that I write, the things that I read to you just before, my books. You know, it's not about money. I don't make any money out of it whatsoever. I have a page, yes, Soul Sessions with me, Marek Peter Kaznek, but most of the way, nearly all of it is done for free. Some people have paid in the past, some people have donated a little bit, but all of it, nearly all of it is for free. Money's got nothing to do with it. If you ask to do it, you're doing it, and that's it. And there's a saying: don't let your left hand know what right is doing. I think that's attributed actually to Jesus. One of the Gospels, I can't remember. That means, you know, if you're going to do this work, if you're going to be a voice for the soul, for the unconscious, like most true poets and artists and shamans or witches were or are, do it well and walk away. Don't worry about what the reward is or not. If you're getting a reward, you're not going to get a reward. Life or the unconscious will look after you. I've spoken about this as well. You know, you're not going to be rich, you're not going to be famous because you're speaking about things that are not popular to hear, you know, but you're going to have help from the invisible side, from the spirit, from the soul. You're going to be all right, you know. So that's what I wanted to talk to you. What's the time? Yeah, it's time for me to finish. I've been raving on. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, about, you know, don't worry about what they say and follow your own way. Trust, like Joseph Campbell used to say, follow your bliss. Many of us did, and many of us still do, and I hope you will too as well. So I'll see you on the next one, and thanks for listening.